Hello everyone. In today's topic, we are going to discuss about the anatomy and physiology of the heart. It is a continuation of the cardiovascular system, and we have already seen about the introductory part. And this is a next topic. Okay. Structure of the heart. The heart is roughly conical shape, and you can see here it's roughly a conical shape. It is a hollow muscular organ. Hollow means some empty spaces inside so that some contents can be carried inside. So that is a hollow thing. It is a muscle. Okay, it is mainly made up of muscle. That is a muscular organ. It is about 10 centimeters long. The heart size is about the owner's fist. So if we asking the person that you want to measure, and if you're asking the person to close their hand in the fist, what is the size of the fist that the person's heart is according to the size of the owner's fist. The it weighs around 225 gram in women and 310 gram in men. It is roughly given. Okay, it is around 225 in women and 310 gram in men. So organs associated with the heart. So we can see inferior means down. So what is inferiorly associated with the heart? The apex of the heart rests on the diaphragm. Here you can see this is the apex of the heart. It rests on the diaphragm. The diaphragm is a flap-like structure which separates the thoracic cavity and the abdominal cavity. So this is the one. So inferiorly it is present. Superiorly the aorta, the superior vena cava, the pulmonary artery and the pulmonary veins. Here you can see the pulmonary artery, the superior vena cava, the pulmonary artery trunk is there, the aorta. So these are the superior ones. Superior means front. What is present on the posterior side? The esophagus, trachea, the right and the left bronchus, the descending aorta, the inferior vena cava, and the thoracic vertebrae. Here you can see the thoracic vertebrae is there, the esophagus, the trachea, the bronchus, everything is present. So that is present posteriorly. Lateral means on the side. So the lungs are present on the lateral side. Anteriorly, the sternum, the ribs, and the intercostal muscles. Here you can see the sternum, the ribs, and the space between these two ribs is called the intercostal space, and the muscles between these two is called the intercostal muscles. Okay, so that is being present anteriorly. These are the organs associated with the heart. So layers of the heart. The heart walls of the heart consist of three layers of tissue, that is the pericardium, myocardium, and the endocardium. So you can get it in the 2 marks, the pericardium, myocardium, and the endocardium. And you should not just leave just like that because it has all so many things in it. So here you can see the pericardium is the outer one, the myocardium which consists of the muscle layer, the endocardium which is the inner layer, inner covering which consists of the inner endothelial cells. Okay, in the endothelial lining is present. Okay. So what about the pericardium? The pericardium is the outermost layer and it consists of two sacs. It is divided into two things. What does that mean? The fibrous pericardium and the serous pericardium. Okay, fibrous and the serous pericardium. The outer or the fibrous pericardium consists of the fibrous tissue and the inner or the serous pericardium consists of double layer of serous membrane. Here you can see there are double layers because the serous pericardium, here the outer one is called as the parietal pericardium and the inner one is called the visceral pericardium. Okay, visceral pericardium. So between these two there is a small space which consists of the pericardial fluid is being present. Here you can see outer endocardium, sorry, inner endocardium, myocardium and the pericardium. The pericardium consists of two layers, that the fibrous pericardium and the serous pericardium. The serous pericardium is consisting of the parietal pericardium and the visceral pericardium. Between both there is a space and this space consists of the pericardial fluid. Okay. So mainly it consists of the pericardium, myocardium and the endocardium. Endocardium is the innermost and the pericardium is the outermost. So interior of the heart, you can see how the heart is interior part of the heart is being present. The heart is divided by the septum into right and the left. Here you can see how a wall is being separating two rooms. Like in the same way, the septum is the one which is separating heart into right and the left. So before birth, the blood can cross through the septum from one side to the other, and after birth, it cannot. So when before birth, you can see the septum, there will be a small hole so the blood can pass from the right to the left and all. But at the time when the baby is crying, what happens, this flap is being closed and the blood cannot pass after that. Okay, so the right and the left side is divided by an atrioventricular valve. The upper part is known as the atrium and the lower one is known as the ventricle. So in both the right side and the left side, The upper part is called as the atrium and the lower part is known as the ventricle. The thing which is separating this atrium and the ventricle, that is called as the atrioventricular valve. The name itself you see atrium, atrioventricular valve. Okay, atrioventricular valve. The atrioventricular valves are made up of double folds of endocardium which are strengthened by little fibrous tissue. They are made up of the endocardium and the fibrous tissue. The right atrioventricular valve, also known as the tricuspid or three flap or cusp, and the left atrioventricular valve or the mitral valve has two cusps. Here you can see the right side, there is the three cusps are being present. One, two, and three, third one. So that is called as the tricuspid. Three cusps are being present, so tricuspid valve. Here you can see only two things, that is called the mitral valve or the bicuspid valve. Okay, so this is the one which is being separating the right atrium and the ventricle. Right side is called as the tricuspid and the left side is called as the bicuspid or the mitral valve. Okay. So interior of the heart, the valves are extended from the inferior surface of the cusp to little projections which are prevented from opening upward into the atrium by tendines called caudate tendinae. Here you can see caudate tendinae. These are the one which is protecting the prevents of opening the atrioventricular valve. So you can see when the valves are open, these are getting relaxed and this is pulling down, and when the valves are closed, these are extending. These caudate tendinae are extending. So the right side of the heart consists of the inferior and the superior vena cava and the pulmonary artery. The left side of the heart consists of the four pulmonary veins and the aorta. Here you can see the right side of the heart, it consists of the superior and the inferior vena cava, which is being present here, superior and the inferior vena cava, and the pulmonary artery. Okay, here from here it will go like this. From the ventricle it goes like this, the pulmonary artery, and in the left side it consists of the four pulmonary veins. Here you can see the four pulmonary veins and the aorta. Okay, so this is the one I explain in detail. So the flow of blood to the heart. So this is the physiology part. So what is the difference between anatomy and physiology? Anatomy is describing about what we are seeing. Okay, if you're seeing, for example, if you're seeing a mobile phone, if you're telling that how the phone is looking, what are the by just by looking, not using the phone, what you're explaining is called as the anatomy. Just by looking, you are seeing that there are this many valves are there. It is like this shape, it is this color. So that is called the anatomy. But physiology is when you're using that phone, how many features are inside, how the phone is working. That is called the physiology. So here the physiology means how the heart is working. What are the things happening inside the heart? So the flow of the blood through heart. The blood flows inside the heart in one way. So this is the one you have to remember. Always the blood flow in only one way. It can't go back from one place to another. The blood enters the heart through the atrium and passes through the ventricles below. From the atrium, it passes to the ventricles below. The valves between the atria and the ventricle, that is the tricuspid and the mitral valve, open and close passively according to the change in pressure inside the chambers. So you can see here when in the atrium, if the pressure is greater, okay, for example, you consider a balloon, and if you are giving pressure on one side, what happens? The If you are filling the balloon with the water or something, if you are pressing it, what happens? The water from the one side it passes to the other side. So in the same way, what happens when the pressure in the atrium is greater, in this tricuspid and the mitral valve, it opens the valves, and blood from the atrium it passes into the ventricle on the both the side. Okay, at both the side it passes. The valves open when the pressure in the atrium is greater than the ventricle. So when we are giving pressure more here, it opens these two valves and the blood passes from the atrium to the ventricle. During the ventricular contraction, the ventricular systole, the pressure in the ventricles rises above the atria and the valves snap shut, which prevents the backflow of the blood. So during what happens in when the ventricles is getting contracted, when the pressure in the ventricles is being greater, what happens? This valve, I already told that the heart blood flow only in one way. So what happened? These valves are being shut and the other valves are being opened. That is the valves which is being present for this pulmonary artery and the aorta. Okay, these valves here you can see. This valve, aortic valve. This is the pulmonic valve. This is the aortic valve. These what happened? This valve being open and the blood from the ventricles is passes to this artery, the pulmonary artery and the aorta. Okay, this is what happens in the flow of the blood through heart. So, but there are two colors of that. But because of what these colors are given, so blue represents the deoxygenated blood. That is means the blood which carries carbon dioxide, and red represents the oxygenated blood. That is the blood which carries with oxygen. That is called the oxygenated blood. That's why it is given in red color. Okay. So what happens in the deoxygenated blood? It's taken into the right atrium through the superior and the inferior vena cava. Here you can see the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. What happens? Blood from all the parts of the body, that means the deoxygenated blood from all the parts of the body is being carried through the superior and the inferior vena cava into this right atrium. Okay, through the tricuspid valve taken into the right ventricle. So what happens when the pressure is being greater here? These valves are being open and the pressure from the blood from the atrium passes into the ventricle. So from the pulmonary artery into the from the ventricles into the pulmonary artery. I'm just given a hint only. Okay, when the pressure is being greater, what happens? The blood from the right ventricle, it passes through this pulmonary artery. Okay, this is the pulmonary artery which is opening here only. Blood from the right ventricle passes through the pulmonary artery. From the pulmonary artery, it goes into the lungs. Pulmonary means lungs. Okay, anything that is associated with the lungs, it comes in the form of pulmo or pulmonary. From that, you can understand. Okay, this is being associated with the lungs. Okay. So from the pulmonary artery into the lungs for purification, it is where this deoxygenated blood is going to the through the pulmonary artery to the lungs for purification. Okay, so the only artery which carries deoxygenated blood. You might know that the arteries are the one which is carrying the oxygenated blood and the veins are the one which is carrying deoxygenated blood. But in the heart, the only thing in the whole body, the only artery which carries deoxygenated blood is the pulmonary artery, and the only veins which carries oxygenated blood is the pulmonary veins. It is a small change in the heart. Okay, so here from this right ventricle, the deoxygenated blood goes into the lungs through this pulmonary artery for purification. The right lung and the left lung. So two branches are being given. Okay. So from the lungs, the blood is being purified, and from the blood want to come back to the heart. So from how it's coming from the lungs into the left atrium. From the lungs, it is being coming to the left atrium through the four pulmonary veins. Here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4. The four pulmonary veins which open into the left atrium. Okay, here left atrium it opens, and through the mitral valve is taken into the left ventricle. So when the pressure is being greater, this mitral valve will open and the blood from the left atrium, it comes into the left ventricle. From the left ventricle taken into the aorta. So when the pressure is being greater, what happens? This aortic valve open and from the blood will be carried through this aorta. The left ventricle takes aorta. Through aorta taken into all parts of the body. So the aorta is the biggest blood vessel which is taking the oxygenated blood, because the body needs oxygenated blood to survive, to the body to function everything. So what happens in the left ventricle? This oxygenated blood is carried through all the parts of the body through this aorta. Okay, so this is the difference. The deoxygenated and the oxygenated blood. The left side it consists of the oxygenated and the right side it consists of the deoxygenated blood. The only thing you have to remember is the pulmonary artery, the only artery which carries the deoxygenated blood, and the pulmonary veins is the one which carries the oxygenated blood. Okay. So here, the opening of the aorta is protected by the aortic valve, which is formed of three semilunar curves. Here you can see here the pulmonary the aorta is being guarded by three valves. That is a semilunar valve that is called as the aortic valve. Both the atria contract at the same time, which is followed by the simultaneous contraction of both the ventricles. Here you can see when the atrium is contracting, both the right and the left atrium contracts at the same time, and at the same time when the ventricles are contracting, these two ventricles will contract at the same time. Okay, so after the contraction of this atrium, the ventricles will contract. Not both the atrium and the ventricles contract at the same time. When the atrium and the left ventricles are contracting, the left ventricles will be relaxed, and when the right ventricle and the left ventricle are contracting, the atrium will be relaxed. Okay. The muscle layer of the atrial wall is thinner than the ventricles. Here you can see there the muscle layer is very thin in the atrium, but in the ventricles it's being thicker. For what? The atria pump the blood only through the atrioventricular valves into the ventricles. The more powerful ventricles pump the blood to the lungs and the whole body. Because of this structure, because the atrium wants to pump the blood to all the parts of the body. Okay, the aorta wants to pump to all the parts of the body, and the more powerful ventricles only, what are the deoxygenated blood want to be transferred to the lungs also, because it is against the gravity. Here the blood is flowing towards the gravity from the atrium to the ventricles, but from the ventricles to the aorta and the pulmonary artery, it is flowing against the gravity. So much of power is needed in the ventricles. That's why so much of muscles is being present in the comparatively with the ventricle, so much of muscles is being present. The pulmonary trunk or the pulmonary artery leaves the heart from the upper part of the right ventricle and aorta, and leaves from the upper part of the left ventricle. Here you can see that the pulmonary trunk which leaves the heart from the upper part of the right ventricle. From the right ventricle it is leaving the heart, and the aorta leaves from the upper part of the left ventricle. Okay, here upper part of the left ventricle it is being leaving. So the heart is supplying blood to the whole part of the body, but the heart also needs some blood supply to function. So how it is being supplied, that is called as the coronary circulation. The blood supply to the heart is called as the coronary circulation. The atrial supply, the right and the left coronary artery supply the heart with the atrial blood. The coronary artery branch from the aorta. Here you can see the aorta is being present from the aorta, the right and the left coronary artery branch. So this is the one which is supplying the blood to all the parts of the heart. The coronary artery receives about 5% of the blood which is pumped from the heart, even though the heart is a small portion of the body weight. The heart is comparatively the body, so many parts are there. It's a small. The heart is holding very a small proportion of the body weight, but it receives 5% of the blood from the coronary artery. In this 5% large blood supply proportion goes to the left ventricle, because the aorta, here you can see, in the left ventricle only the aorta opens, which is pumping the blood to all the parts of the body. That's why so much of blood supply is being present in the left ventricle. So venous drainage. So venous drainage in the sense the deoxygenated blood from the heart that means the the deoxygenated blood that is being excreted from the heart, that is how it is being collected. That is the thing. Most of the venous blood is collected into the cardiac veins that joins and form the coronary sinus, which opens in the right atrium. You know that the right side is the one which is collecting the deoxygenated blood. So the coronary sinus, here you can see the coronary sinus is the main one. So many branches are being taking place. What is that? This cardiac vein, that is a small cardiac vein, the middle cardiac vein, the great cardiac vein, and anterior cardiac vein. So many cardiac veins are being present. These all join to form the coronary sinus, and this coronary sinus opens into the right side of the atrium. So that's how the venous blood are being collected. Venous drainage is happening in the heart. Okay, to conclude that, heart is a muscular organ. It's a conical in shape, and it consists of three layers. That is the pericardium, myocardium, and the endocardium. So in the pericardium, the fibrous pericardium and the serous pericardium is present. In the serous pericardium, there is the parietal and the visceral layer are being present. So in the heart, the left side are the one which conducting the deoxygenated blood, and the right side are the one conducting deoxygenated blood, and the left side are the one which conducting the oxygenated blood. So from the atrium it passes to the ventricles, and from the ventricles it passes through the aorta and the pulmonary artery. So the coronary circulation, the main thing is the coronary artery is the one which is supplying from the aorta, that is supplying the whole part of the heart, and the venous drainage is the coronary sinus. Okay, so thank you so much. If you have any doubts, so please comment in the comment section below. So in our future videos, we'll be dealing with the ECG interpretation, the electrical changes, what are the activities which is being taking place in the heart. Okay, thank you so much.